big day. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I know we're all taking our seats. It's a beautiful day in Austin, Texas. Again, thank you all for being here. We're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Rollins, and we see a lot of great and longtime friends in the audience, and what a blessing to be here with you today. We asked for beautiful weather, and beautiful weather was given to us, so God is smiling on this day. You know, we like to call this 901 Congress Liberty's New Address. The Texas Public Policy Foundation headquarters in the Michael S. Stevens building at 901 Congress right here in Austin, Texas. It's been, Dr. Jim, a long journey to this spot. When I took over the foundation on January 1st, 2003, more than 11 years ago, we were a smaller organization then, only a handful of people. The first day on the job, I found out we only had $9,000 in the bank, so we couldn't have made payroll. First day on the job. Wendy and Jim didn't tell me that, by the way, when we were talking about taking this opportunity. But 11 years later, just look around us. We are gathered here on the work site of a $19.5 million headquarters building that will house our nearly 40-person organization with an annual budget of $6 million. It's a long way from the four corners of San Antonio, Dr. Jim, to national relevance in a dedicated headquarters building just 2 blocks from the Texas Capitol. And thinking back on how did this happen? Like the Lone Star State itself, the success and the flourishing of the Texas Public Policy Foundation was the work of many hands, many minds, and many endeavors, but with really only one vision. It was a vision of a Texas that was free and prosperous, and America recalled to its best self as the land of liberty and the home of the free and the brave. Today, at this dedication of the Michael S. Stevens building, we are so proud to welcome you, to greet you to the City of Austin, and to thank the City of Austin as our proud neighbor and our tenant and a tenant, to reintroduce our foundation to the people of Texas, and of course, and most importantly, to welcome and thank all the extraordinary Texans who have made this possible. You'll hear from several of our state leaders throughout this morning and then at lunch, and of course you'll hear from a great national leader in the Liberty Movement. But first I want to introduce to you the woman who reached out to me all those years ago and asked if I might be interested in taking this position at the Texas Public Policy Foundation. You'll appreciate that it was during halftime, Red McCombs, of a University of Texas A&M game. Unfortunately, the Aggies ran out of time that day in a big way. But let me tell you how persuasive her case was. She told me the resources were a little thin, but what she could promise was that it would be the best kind of work, a work for the fight for Texas and for what's great about this country. Over a decade later, I am so grateful that I listened to the amazing Dr. Wendy Gramm. When we look to the vision, the enduring faith, and the sound counsel that has sustained us and brought us to this point, she stands in the first rank, serving our country in Washington, D.C. as head of the Commodities Future Trading Commission. The Wall Street Journal, of course, called her the Margaret Thatcher of financial regulation, and Ronald Reagan always noted her as his favorite economist. She walked the halls of academia, most notably at Texas A&M, and has been a leading light for Texas liberty for decades now. Please help me welcome our board chair for the last 14 years, the wonderful Dr. Wendy Gramm.
I haven't been chairman of the board for the last 14 years totally, because after hiring Brooke and then serving as chairman of the board for a few years, I told her, Brooke, I have to step down as chairman because I can't be so much of an advocate for you. That's not an appropriate role for the board chairman, because I was. And so I stepped down for a bit, but I am back, and it has been a great ride. But thank you for being here to share our special day, and thank you so much to all of you for making this happen. Who would have thunk this? And you'll hear it's kind of a mantra. Liberty has a new address, the Michael Stevens Corner here now. Not just Michael Stevens building, but it's this corner, this part. 901 Congress will be the epicenter, our staff likes to call it, the epicenter, meaning this is where the earthquake started, right? For freedom and free enterprise and limited government, which is sort of redundant when you think about those terms altogether. But for not only for Texans, but for all freedom-loving citizens. We're the center of where this new movement to recapture the freedoms of our founding fathers really will live, and we're so proud of it. Now, why is that important? Let me quote my favorite, Thomas Jefferson. The price of freedom is eternal vigilance. And he also said that in the natural scheme, I don't have exactly the words, but it's a natural thing for liberty to yield and government to gain ground. He also said that the tree of liberty must be refreshed from time to time with the blood of tyrants and patriots. But we'll pass on that. But this will be a bastion, a citadel, a fortress of sorts, from which will emanate ideas, policy proposals, analyses, research, papers, but more important, people who can explain these concepts to make Texas a better and stronger place. And by example, America and all freedom lovers will have a champion right here in this building, in that building. So, this building, here it is, right here. So thank you so much. We will be the beacon of hope to all freedom lovers, and we are so pleased to have you here. And I'd like to welcome an old friend to TPPF. I think Steve Moore has spoken to more of our policy events than even our most seasoned and senior veterans of TPPF. He's been with us for many, many years, and we appreciate it. He's here to celebrate this special day with us. You know him as being on the editorial board of the Wall Street Journal for years and years and years. And also, he was one of the founders, if not the founder, you were the founder of the Club for Growth, which was a freedom-fighting organization in the political sphere from way back. So please do help us recognize now Steve Moore, who is now Chief Economist at the Heritage Foundation.
Thank you so much. Brooke called me a couple weeks ago and asked me if I could come to this, and I said, hell yes, I'm coming. I actually was at a dinner last night. We did a nice, you all know Larry Kudlow, the economist on CNBC. We had a big dinner for him, a kind of celebration with him, and I was with, Larry Kudlow and Art Laffer and Governor Mike Pence of Indiana and Governor Scott Walker, what a hero he is in Wisconsin. And I all told them I was coming out here to TPPF. I got up at 4:30 a.m. to get to the Newark airport to get out here. That's how much I wanted to be here with you all today. So, they all send their best wishes, and it's just fun to be here. By the way, I did, when I got into the airport this morning, I was kind of waiting for the car to pick me up, and I was watching C-SPAN. I don't know how many of you saw this. You might have been on your way here, but the president, did you see this? He was in Michigan today giving a speech, and he was in a school, and I don't know if you all saw this, he was taking some questions from the kids. They look like they were 4th and 5th grade kids, and it was covered by C-SPAN and CNN, and he asked these young kids, do you have any questions this morning? And this one little boy waved his hand, and the president says, son, what's your name? And the little boy says, well, my name is Oliver, sir, and well, son, what is your question this morning? And Oliver says, well, Mr. President, I just had a question about Benghazi. And I'm wondering, would you have done anything differently? We lost our ambassador and some of our people at our embassy, and do you think you acted indecisively in that crisis? And I just had one other follow-up question, Mr. President. my parents just lost their health insurance. You had told the American people, if you like the health insurance you have, you'll get to keep it. And I wonder, Mr. President, if you were lying to the American people when you said this. Well, you can see the president, he's kind of straightening his tie, not knowing quite how to deal with this. And all of a sudden, right in the middle of this, the recess bell rings, and these kids just scamper outside. Literally, about 10, 15 minutes later, the kids reassemble, and the president's still there, and he's saying, okay, yeah, where were we? Oh, yes, I was taking some questions from the kids. Do any kids have any questions? Well, there's a little girl in the front row raised her hand, and, young lady, what's your name? Well, my name is Grace. Well, Grace, what is your question this morning? And Grace says, well, I have 2 questions for you, Mr. President, this morning. One is, why did the recess bell go off 15 minutes early today? And second of all, what the hell happened to Oliver? That's called executive privilege. I had to pass that one on to you. Wendy, I was speaking at the very first TPPF. This was pre-Brooke Rollins. Brooke, you probably don't know about this, but one of the first publications that Texas Public Policy Foundation published was called something like Making Government Work. Do you guys still have that? And I was one of the contributors to that. And Fritz Steiger, I think, was the original president and founder of the TPPF. So he called me the other day. He really wanted to be here, but he had some conflicts. But I asked him, how did this all get started? And he had this great story that I wanted to relate to you that probably no one in this room or out here knows except for the great Jim Leininger, because he had gone, I guess as the story goes, and Jim, you can tell me if I get this wrong, but that you and Fritz had been talking, and you had just read an article about this new think tank in Washington, D.C. called the Heritage Foundation. And according to a legend, it was your idea, Jim. You said to Fritz Steiger, what we need in Texas is a Texas-based Heritage Foundation. And it is just so cool that here we are. Well, that was 1983, wasn't it, Jim, around then? So 83, 84, what? 80, that late, okay. But that was 25 years ago. So it's amazing what you guys have accomplished since then. And it really is extraordinary. When I started at Heritage, we were just moving from a little townhouse to the big building we have right now. So it's fun to be at another groundbreaking ceremony. Let me just say, I'm not going to talk for too long. I just wanted to say a couple of things about why this institution is so important, TPPF. I travel around the country. I do a lot of events with the state think tanks. I think that they are one of our greatest assets right now. I mean, this is one of the few areas we're just killing the lot, right? I mean, our state think tanks are so effective and influential. And it's interesting, George Soros, who, as you know, who basically is funding all these left-wing organizations, one of his operatives told me a couple of years ago that they were so concerned about what, the amazing impact that groups like TPPF and all around the country, the TPPF was certainly one of the first state think tanks, but now we got how many, at least I think every state in the country has these. And George Soros, his guy told me, he said, we believe it's going to cost us $1 billion to recreate the infrastructure that people like Brooke Rollins have created here in Texas. I mean, that's quite a compliment, $1 billion. And that's because we've had such a profound impact. And the neat thing about Texas, and the reason I wanted to rush out here and be here, is you are seen clearly as the national model for, the way I put it, I have a new book out. Thanks for mentioning it, Wendy. But I have a new book out that I wrote with Art Laffer called An Inquiry into the Nature and Causes of the Wealth of States, a little play off on the wealth of nations. And one of the things that comes, shining through in this book is the incredible advantage that Texas has over so much of the rest of the nation. And one of the points that we make in the book, I don't want to steal the ending from you because I want you to all stimulate the economy and go out and buy the book, but the real story in America, the biggest political and economic story is how the center of gravity and the center of power in this nation is moving southward. It is moving out of New York, it's moving out of Massachusetts, it's moving out of my home state of Illinois and California, and it is moving to great states like Tennessee and Florida and Texas and all of these great states. It was pretty interesting because let's see, I'm trying to think. It was Monday night. We had the Manhattan Institute in New York had an event, and the governor of Florida, Jeb Bush, spoke at this, and he was trying to convince people that Florida was a greater state than Texas. I don't know if he was capable of doing that, but you know, the thing that is so amazing about Texas, if you look over the last 5 years, this is one of the statistics I love to use because it annoys liberals. So you all know Paul Krugman, this left-wing economist. So I was debating Paul Krugman, and I said to Paul, look, if your model of liberalism works so well, if this creates, you know, a worker's paradise, then explain to me why it is over the last 5 years the great Lone Star state of Texas has created 1 million jobs, and California has lost 1 million jobs. And he was like, blah, 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 blah. He had no response to that, right? And so we're just seeing this over and over again. I wanted to mention a couple of really kind of neat things that TPPF has done that I think have become a real model for the nation. And the great thing about the state think tanks, groups like TPPF, is that, you know, this is federalism, right? States learn from each other. And it's clear that states are learning from Texas. And so one of the things I'm really proud of that you've done, Brooke, is the Right on Crime initiative. And I remember when you called me, what was it about? When did you start this? Like a couple of years ago. And I'd never heard of this. You know, I'd never heard of conservatives really rethinking how we deal with juvenile criminals and how do we prevent young people who may, you know, have a drug arrest or something like that. How do we prevent them from becoming lifetime criminals? And this movement is now everywhere I go. Everywhere I go, every state is now doing this. It's really an extraordinary thing to see. And it started here in Texas. The other thing I wanted to mention is this was certainly part Rick Perry, but it was also part TPPF. Texas was the very first state to say not just no, but hell no to Obamacare. And I want to applaud you for that, because now we have half the states that said hell no to Obamacare, and that is a great thing to say. So I'm so honored to be here. I think this is the start of something really big for TPPF. I can't wait to come back 25 years from now, Brooke. You'll still probably be running the place. And the Lone Star State is really shining brightly today. Thank you very much.
In 25 years, it'll be the whole city block. Steve is such a great champion and such a longtime friend, and has such a great sense of the importance of the work and the importance of the states. And so many of you have heard me say for so long that, and I think probably General Abbott will comment on this too, that our country is certainly in a state of crisis. And the only way out of it, because Washington is incapable of fixing itself, the only way out of the crisis is for the states to lead the way. And the state that will lead the way and be the beacon of light for the rest of the country is and must be Texas. And so what an honor to have the 50th Attorney General of our state, Greg Abbott, here with us today. Of course, a former Texas Supreme Court Justice, a very celebrated district court judge, an incredible man with a great heart, an extraordinary faith, and a real love of this state, and will continue this state on the path that we've been on for the last decade. And it is our honor to work alongside you, General Abbott, from here forward. Please help me welcome Attorney General Greg Abbott.
Well, thank you, Brooke, for your very kind introduction. But I got to tell you, Brooke, we thank you even more for the brilliant leadership that you are providing to the premier free market think tank in America. You all know that we do everything bigger here in the state of Texas, and I was talking to Brooke moments ago, because when I look at the expanse of the size of this, I know for a fact that once again Texas is growing free market, capitalistic thought process bigger in the state of Texas than any other state, because no state has a free market think tank the size of the great state of Texas. But I've been to the Heritage Foundation in Washington, D.C. I've been to other free market think tanks in Washington, D.C., and we don't have the details of this yet, but I will not be surprised to find out that the Texas Public Policy Foundation, Free Market Foundation, is going to be larger than any free market think tank in the United States of America, which is exactly the way that it should be. I do have one concern, however. You see how we've leveled the ground, how we've hollowed out this building, and pretty soon we're going to start filling it in. And as they begin to fill it in, of course, one of the things they will do is they will fill out the interior part of this great facade. And my concern is exactly what shade of Aggie maroon that Brooke will impose on the inside of this building. Red, we need some equal time here. We need some burnt orange inside that building. Well, thanks also to Wendy Gramm and her leadership for being here. Thank you, Dr. Jim Leininger, the founder of this great organization, and your lovely wife, Cecilia. Thank you so much. And thank you to free market advocate extraordinaire, Stephen Moore, for being here. Thank you for getting up so early. The hard part about your day, though, Stephen, was not getting up so early to come here. It was going to the Newark airport. And thanks also to our incredible legislative leaders. There are some who are scattered throughout the seating area, some who are over here. Our great Commissioner of Education in the great state of Texas, building the future of students here in the state. Michael Williams, thank you for being here. And to all the patriots, the supporters of this cause, who like me have relied upon TPPF as an essential source for innovative thinking and ideas. But we're here today not only to celebrate the dedication of a foundation, but to also celebrate the dedication of those who safeguard the ideals upon which this nation was founded. The ideals of freedom, free enterprise, and personal responsibility. These ideals have animated the United States of America. But when those ideals were denied right here where we are today, when liberty was abridged right here, that is when Texas was born. And since that day, Texas has become what America longs to be. You all know the numbers. The state of Texas has created far more jobs than any other state. We've been the top exporting state for 12 years in a row. We're the top energy producing state in the country. We've been ranked the best state for doing business for now 10 years in a row. And 7 of the top 10 cities in the United States of America for future job growth are right here in the great state of Texas. The truth is that Texas is exceptional, and it's no coincidence that the smart policies that accelerated the success were developed during the 25 years since TPPF was founded. Jobs grow here. Families thrive here because liberty is safeguarded here in the great state of Texas. It doesn't matter what your race is. It doesn't matter what your religion is. It doesn't matter what your background may be or which zip code you may come from. In this state, we are all Texans, and we unite under the common cause that flows from the freedom that permeates the state of Texas. We look to the horizon, and we Texans see opportunities unbound. We look to our families, and we see culture blended and strong. We look to the future and ask, what is the right direction for Texas to head in? Some answer that question by demanding even more government. We've seen how that turns out. More government leads to more spending, which leads to more taxes, which would devastate the economic miracle that has made Texas so great. We need only look to places like Detroit, to California, or even our own nation's capital to see how big government liberal policies have repeatedly failed. The right direction for Texas to head is always toward more freedom, more opportunity. More freedom for individuals with their constitutional rights protected. More opportunity for businesses so they can grow and innovate and create even more jobs. More opportunity for schools and teachers, Michael, with genuine local control that frees them from the one-size-fits-all mandates. And more freedom for families because those families know far better how to run their lives than do a bunch of bureaucrats down the street in Austin, Texas, or up the east in Washington, D.C. The Texas model is proof that conservative policies do work. And that's why we're seeing a massive migration out of California that Stephen Moore talked about. Stephen Moore has a quote, and he has it right. He says that California is a man-made disaster. As he pointed out, over the past 5 years, as California has lost jobs, Texas has added more than 1 million new jobs. Major employers like Toyota are moving their jobs here. But maybe our greatest import from California is TPPF's own Chuck DeBoer. Come here. Thank you, Chuck. And they are all attracted by the Texas miracle. Less government, low taxes, smarter regulations, litigation reform, and right-to-work laws. Every Texas family deserves their own personal Texas economic miracle, and that begins with jobs. Jobs grow where free enterprise flourishes and where government is restrained. Over the past few months, I've looked into the eyes of so many Texans, and I've seen the passion that flows from individual liberty. I've seen the success that flows from a true free enterprise system. Books could be filled with Texans who started humbly and went on to achieve remarkable success. Some of those people are sitting on the front row right here. But I'm going to mention just one. A young man who loved family, was guided by faith, and served his country in the United States Marines. With a sparkle in his eye and a dazzling smile, Michael Stevens started a business with little more than the love he shared with his beautiful wife, Kim, who's with us here today. But because Michael Stevens lived in Texas, he also had boundless opportunity. Michael grew that business from virtually nothing into real estate projects valued at far more than $1 billion. He built more than a family and a business, though. He helped build Houston, and he helped build Texas. He helped develop things like the Houston Astros Minute Maid Park. He helped build things like the Houston Texans Reliance Stadium. He helped build things like major developments at the massive Houston Medical Center. And he helped shape our state's policy, ranging from transportation to toll reform to tax reform. Well, this Michael Stevens building will be a lasting reminder of what freedom and free enterprise can truly accomplish. It's the ideal that any person from any background has a chance to dream and to achieve, because we live in a Texas that offers unlimited opportunity for absolutely everyone. Michael Stevens was a warrior for that opportunity and for the liberty that undergirds it. He fought for the ideals and the values of the greatest people to inhabit this earth, the people of Texas. And this bedrock of TPPF will keep it that way. So congratulations to TPPF, and may God continue to bless the great state of Texas.
Many of you here knew Michael, and we'll talk a little bit more about him at lunch too. But many of you did not, and it's been 6 years since we've lost him. seems like yesterday, because he's still with so many of us that knew him so well. And talking about his smile and the sparkle in his eye, when we lost him, and he was a longtime board member of the Texas Public Policy Foundation, helped hire me, part of that effort. When we lost him, I called Kim soon after and I said, we're going to do something so that his legacy is never forgotten. And that's how this all came about, in a lot of ways, is the importance of having a permanent marker for liberty, having a permanent building for what we stand for, but also for never forgetting the men and women who built this state. Men and women like Michael Stevens and his beautiful wife Kim, who's here, Jim and Cecilia Leininger, of course Red McCombs, the Hogsett family, the Neely family, the Herdsteins, the Strakes. It goes on and on. And so to not only have a location here at 9th and Congress, a couple blocks from the Capitol, to talk about freedom and what that means and how we lift millions of people out of poverty and help millions upon millions of people live a better life as God would have wanted. It's about that, and it's about what we are going to accomplish, what we have accomplished, but more importantly, what we will continue to accomplish as we work to save this country. So I thank you all so much for being with us. General Abbott, it is always so inspiring and encouraging to know that you are at the helm in so many ways and will continue to be so as we work together for this great cause that we call freedom. So I thank you all. Of course, at TPPF, nothing's ever normal or simple. So when we talked about how we have our groundbreaking with no dirt to turn, we said, well, how are we going to do this? And Robert Croft, our wonderful Vice President of Strategic Partnerships, had what I think is a brilliant idea. My husband, Mark Rollins, who's here today, might say later that was a little cheesy, but we do things a little bit cheesy at the Texas Public Policy Foundation. But we thought instead of turning dirt, we want to sign with our names the foundational pillars of what will hold this building up for generations to come. The ideas of liberty and free enterprise and personal responsibility. And just as the 56 men who signed their names to the Declaration of Independence, it's a new day in Texas. And so we want everyone here to sign your names on these foundational pillars, which will become part of this building to open later this year.